Welcome everyone to the patch 26.3 mid lane tier list. In this video, I'm going to be ranking all mid laners from S to D tier. My name is Coach Mysterias. I'm currently Challenger EUS with a 63% win rate. And I've played a lot of League over the past few weeks to give you guys the best information possible when it comes to the strength of the champions. Now, Riot in this patch has actually made massive changes to mid lane because they gutted Phase Rush. They changed some of mid laners' runes. And some items have also been changes. So we got some stuff to discuss. I'm going to excuse you guys. I'm a little bit sick. I got a bit of a cold. So if you guys wondering, Tim, what's this voice? I'm so sorry I can't do anything about it. We're going to try our best. So regardless, we need to start with the Phase Rush changes because these are quite marginal. Because a lot of the previously placed, this was the previous tier list right here, champions were really big Phase Rush users. Ryze, Orianna, we got Talia who loved Phase Rush. Generally, Galio loved Phase Rush. Generally, the strong mid laners loved to take Phase Rush. It was just such a versatile, such a good rune. Now, the truth about Phase Rush is that it helped these less mobile champions deal with threatening situations. Plus, the move speed helped with getting in range to get extra combos off. Hence why this rune was so unbelievably good. Now, I checked the difference between previous patch Phase Rush and this patch Phase Rush. And in the early game, you actually feel very little improvement in your speed. This is a massive, massive change. So how does this actually line up to the tier list? Well, we're going to need to start with the champion Ryze. Because Riot indirectly nerfed Ryze with the Phase Rush nerfs. Ryze sometimes took triple tonic, sometimes took cashback. But he did take a lot of defensive boots. Ryze's game plan was to get lane priority, not only in the lane itself, but also in the side lane, so that he could just beat the enemy in the 1v1, make sure that he never dies, and then get full prio into man advantage plays. Very strong, annoying playstyle, hence why it was so high prio. Now, they nerfed Ryze a little bit indirectly. They also buffed him a little bit indirectly. As you can see, Actualizer got a slight buff when it comes to the gold cost because of the fact that this item was pretty rough to buy for the average mage, besides Ryze, of course. So they gave him a few indirect nerfs, and an indirect buff in the Actualizer. And then in the final end, they also changed his W. They slightly reduced his W base damage when it comes to the flat AP scaling and the percentage bonus mana. Now, this is pretty serious, okay? This W change. The W actually doesn't deal that much damage anymore. So I tried it out. I missed a lot of minions by misreading the W damage. I also feel like he's a lot slower in the early game. The armored boots are definitely a nerf towards Ryze as well. So I think in the early game, Ryze definitely got gooded. And he makes up for it a little bit the moment he gets Actualizer, which is now 300 gold, which is of course very, very nice. But is it really worth the comparison of the indirect nerfs that they gave him? No, absolutely not. I think that Ryze definitely got gooded. We had him at the top of S tier, S plus tier, in the previous patch notes. And I definitely feel like he's weaker. Now, does that mean that he's weak? No, absolutely not. Ryze is still really good in the new patch because his game plan can still be executed. Like I mentioned, he can still play shove and move. He can still get a lane prio. He can still buy defensive boots and just deny champions like Syndra and just still beat them in the side. So instead of being top of S tier, my recommendation is now that Ryze is below the bottom of S tier. Insanely good champ, guys. I recommend if you guys want to make some big waves throughout Season 16, Ryze is a champion that you guys have to be looking at. This champion has also granted me an insane amount of success. I've won so many games on this champion. It's absolutely incredible how useful that he is at winning games. Next up, we got ourselves Ahri. As you recognize, right? If you look at the indirect nerfs of all of these situations here, Ahri doesn't really get affected with this too much. The only thing that Ahri sometimes like to buy or like to get is the cashback with triple tonic. But honestly, those are still really good. Ahri didn't really like Phase Rush users, so Phase Rush getting a nerf is quite good for Ahri. And on top of that, they also gave Ahri a buff when it comes to her W cooldown. Now, in the past, they actually made this change as a nerf when Roa Ahri was so popular, because the reality is that the W is just unskilled, okay? And that forced it to buy CDR. Now, them reverting this and Ahri not really getting indirectly nerfed by much means that Ahri is actually quite buffed, okay? Because the champions around her are getting nerfed and Ahri is getting buffed, which means that she now has a little bit more agency. So how good is Ahri really? In the previous patch, we actually put her in the S tier, somewhere on the bottom of the S tier. Now, if we look at the changes, Ahri is doing phenomenal at the moment. She is doing insanely well. And the truth is, that makes a lot of sense, right? When the champs around you get nerfed, Ahri now gets a little bit of a buff. She, of course, is going to be way stronger. I think currently that Ahri is potentially worth of being in the S plus tier right here. Probably somewhere on the top half, because the truth that her matchups have been slightly nerfed and her being slightly buffed is actually really good. And I want you guys to understand what this W change means to her, okay? This W change means that she now has more defensive capabilities in the lane, but also more offensive capabilities. The W, that 1 second, is really huge when it comes to both defense and offense. And that cooldown may not seem like much, but it's actually a big deal for Ahri and the way that she trades. She can deny a lot of damage with that. Great buff by Riot Games. Love this one. Ahri is really good right now. All right, so some more changes. Echo. They slightly reduced Echo's AP ratio on the passive, and they also slightly changed Dusk and Dawn. Now, of course, we know that Dusk and Dawn is really good on Echo because it procs 2 passive hits from him, which makes it really easy for him to proc his passive. Now, the key thing to keep in mind in this situation is that Echo was really good already. Okay, Echo was A tier, which is quite decent for an assassin. He definitely gets a little bit of a slight nerf here because that passive AP ratio actually changes his wave clear breakpoint at level 7. Instead of Q out attack Q, the return of the Q, now killing the minions, you actually need to change the way that you out attack. You need to do Q1 into Q2 and then out attack. So the W passive then actually kills the minions. But this makes it a lot harder to do that consistently. Your wave clear breakpoint changes a little bit. And that is a pretty big deal for Echo. Now, if you can deal with the wave clear breakpoints properly and you get used to it, it's probably going to be totally fine. But I think that it definitely is a bit of a small nerf to Echo, and especially average Echo player that hasn't figured it out yet, or just removes a little bit of flexibility from you. And therefore, I think it's a small nerf to Echo. Was it deserved? Hard to say, because Dusk and Dawn is such a unique item. The way it interacts with some of these champions is really hard to say how good they actually are. But when it comes to the changes, I think that Echo is probably still in the A tier because he's not particularly much weaker. Now, Mel. We had Mel in the D tier, and they made a lot of changes to Mel. The truth about Mel, guys, is that the TLDR is that she's just consistently weaker. There's so many changes. They really made her weaker. Now, the good thing to keep in mind is that they also made a mid-patch update where they slightly buffed the Mel, simply because of the fact that she was super weak. Now, if we go all the way back here, we see that Mel is just insanely weak. And I think Riot's strategy with Mel is initially nerf her so hard that no one wants to play her and no one wants to ban her anymore because everyone's still banning Mel. And then eventually start buffing her back up. She is therefore still D tier, not a good champion. Not really recommend playing her. She's really volatile. Yeah, just not a super good champion at the moment, guys. Okay, we have some more changes. Jace. They changed Jace a little bit because Jace has been taking over in the jungle. And unfortunately, mid lane Jace is also the victim of that. Now, there's a few things that changed. First and foremost, monster bonus damage is lower, which is good. Get that champ out of the jungle, please. Can we get it back on mid? They increased melee Q damage by a little bit per rank, which is nice. But then they reduced the shock blast ranged damage, okay? And they reduced that a little bit by rank and bonus AD. And that fucking sucks, okay? This is really big. It's also for mid lane Jace. I understand that this is frustrating to verse, especially when it's in the jungle, because he's just going to poke you, and he's got infinite regen, so he can't be poked, and he just wins the fight before it starts. Very annoying play pattern. But on mid lane Jace, or on top lane Jace, this is less of a problem, because there's more counterplay to it, okay? He also needs to buy a mana item in those lanes. So it sucks that mid lane and top lane Jace now get good at like this for jungle Jace. And what they do is they increase the armor and MR strat on the R change, which is actually quite big. This is quite a big difference. This is 10% on every rank. So you are going to deal an insane amount of more damage if you can actually use this properly in your combos. This is a lot of damage that you then extra deal. It's definitely making up for these changes as well. So if you can get closer and get this off, it's going to be dealing more damage, but your poke is going to be down. Now, overall, what are we working with? Is this a net neutral? Is this a net nerf? It's pretty hard to actually visualize. I'm gonna see if there's some stats on Jay's mid. It doesn't look like there's any stats on Jay's mid, unfortunately. Seems like he's not so popular. Yeah, 0.7% pick rate. Does seem like his win rate dropped a bit after the recent patch across the board. Hard to say. Hard to say. We had him previously in the B tier. Now, the real question we gotta ask ourselves, right, is he worse than B tier right now? Okay. Is this a change that massively reshapes his power profile? Well, it definitely shapes the way that he fights, but I still think that he's not particularly weaker or stronger. It's just that the way that he fights is a little bit different. Maybe we're gonna see more health in this champion's builds. So I would say that he's also somewhat in a similar spot here. Not the craziest changes when it comes to the champions affected with nerfs just yet. We're going to eventually take a look at some of the higher tier champs and how Phase Rush has affected them, of course. Now, Yone. Yone has gotten a nice little buff. And the reality is Yone was really, really rough. Okay, Yone was not doing well. We go to Yone's profile. We see that definitely Yone's win rate was on the low side. It's still not super high, okay? Yone is still not really good. And the reality is that especially in higher elos, this champ still struggles because of the fact that he has a really rough lane. So what did they exactly change? They gave Yone a little bit more damage on his Q. Just like a little bit more damage on his Q, okay? Which I think is an interesting way of buffing him, right? It makes him stat check heavy, and I would personally see if we can make his lane maybe a little bit stronger, because that's currently where Yone is struggling the most. And if you can give him like 30 base HP, I think he's already going to be able to have a lot better time getting through the lane. And because second wind D-shield helps with that, right? So yeah, look, I don't think this changes much for the higher elo games on Yone. So I would say that Yone is still pretty D tier, right? Pretty D tier champion. And yeah, not that good. So we're going to need to reevaluate some of the champs that we put in the tier list right here, because I want to have 5 champs max in the S+ tier. And from what I've found thus far, I think that Victor currently, even though that he's really good, I think that he's a little bit less good than the other guys. We might see, right, with the Phase Rush nerfs, because Victor is not a Phase Rush user, right? Let's think about this before we make this assumption. Syndra also got hit with Phase Rush a little bit. Syndra loved taking Phase Rush in the occasional game. I used to do that on Syndra as well. Now I've completely stopped taking Phase Rush on Syndra. And I've just fully went back to First Strike because of the fact that, yeah, Phase Rush isn't really worth taking anymore, right? It's not really worth taking anymore. So I'm going straight back to First Strike. Hence is why I still think Syndra is just really good, right? Syndra was just so flexible on the room page. She can also take Combat Airy just totally fine. I think Syndra is currently one of the best champs on the patch to climb with. I'm, of course, the living proof of that. And I also still think that Orianna is an insanely strong mage. Now, she did definitely get nerfed a little bit, okay? Orianna liked the occasional defensive boots. She liked the occasional cashback. She liked the occasional triple tonic. She liked the Phase Rush. She can, of course, take Airy totally fine. But I definitely think that she got hit indirectly. And she therefore becomes a little bit worse. She might even be a little bit worse than Ryze here. Kali be loving these changes, by the way. Less Phase Rush speed. That's going to make it so much easier to get your trading combo off. I think Assassins love this patch, though. Less good defensive boots. Phase Rush. Cashback. Triple tonic down. Holy moly, they actually do love this patch. Maybe what we're going to find is that Assassins just become a little bit better. Maybe we're going to see the likes of Zed and Kata being even higher tier. It might just be the case that these guys indeed are not B tier anymore, or A tier anymore. They might actually be S tier. Let's think about this. Yasuo also loves the Phase Rush buffs. The Phase Rush nerfs, I mean. Yasuo was already really good. Kiana likes this a lot. Akshan was also really good. Man, there's so many good champions, dude. So many good champions at the moment. Yeah, so I've actually not seen that much TF anymore lately. I've not seen it at all. I'm actually gonna remove TF to A tier. He's still really good, but I think he's a little bit less good than before. Because at the beginning there was so much chaos where you could just ult towards the side and get something going. Right now the game is starting to form and become a little bit more structured. I think TF is actually still quite good, but not S tier anymore. And I would actually say Kata and Zed, probably Talon as well. The only problem with Talon mid is that I just don't have seen any Talon mid. There's just no fucking Talon mid players. Let's take a look where the last Talon mid players are. I mean, there's guys doing it in Korea. Not seen this guy. Not first this guy. there's just almost no Talon mid players, right? Very little. I don't think he's bad. He's just so niche. He's very hard on mid lane as well compared to jungle. Because everyone, if you're a Talon player, why would you not play it in jungle? It's just better in jungle. So I'm going to leave Talon on A tier for now. Next to Echo and Fizz. Once again, these assassins love these changes. Let's see, is there any other champs that we need to look at? Of course, Azir is still really good in pro play, right? Azir in pro play is an absolute freak. But you got to keep in mind that this is a solo QT list. And the way it looks like right now, I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think that this is pretty solid. Anivia got a nice indirect nerf as well. I still think that she's quite good in the right situations. So the truth is, even though there were a lot of small changes, I don't think it massively changes the meta too much. There's of course the Ahri and the Ryze and Orianna that changed. But I also think that mid lane is still going to be very similar. And that's also because I personally haven't changed my pool at all. Even though that I've, in the new patch, fuck me. So I personally also haven't really changed my pool at all in the new patch. And it's honestly been working great for me. I still have a lot of success on Victor. The reason why that's the case is because I think I'm just really good at laning on Victor. And that helps me just win games consistently. I just get ahead and I just carry. You get really, really, really far ahead. And I get Silent Pry on this champ. I think that's just helping me win games. But yeah, honestly, not too many changes, guys. In the end, the strong champs are still strong. The weak champs are still weak. And even though that it looked like a really big patch, in the end, it wasn't too crazy. The mid lane meta is still somewhat similar. And if you are wondering what type of champs you want to be looking out for climbing in this season, look at the S+ tier. These are consistently strong champions. Syndra has been S+ tier for a year now. Ahri's always up in the high tiers. Ryze has been consistently good. Orianna's always been a strong mage. And recently, Akali has been one of the most versatile, consistent assassins. Of course, if you're a little bit higher elo. Look at these champions, guys. And if you guys have any questions or any remarks about the tier list, right, next week, AJ is going to be back again. So we're also going to be doing viewer questions again. Let them know in the comments. Thank you all for watching. And I'll see you guys in a week or two for the new tier list video. Thank you for watching, guys. Peace out.